What an absolutely gnarly weekend, and what a crazy start to the week. Starting off with the Pope has apparently passed. Yes, it's real. Yes, it is on Easter Monday. By the way, I hope everyone had a phenomenal Easter long weekend. You also have the Green Party here in Canada, which is completely being wiped off the map. I mean, Elizabeth May is likely to lose her own seat to the Conservatives, which is... I can't help but smile at that. That makes me really, really happy. You also have Mark Carney being heckled, and then he also admits that he is he's controlled. He's taking actual directions from the World Economic Forum. Yeah, we've seen that not too long ago with Justin Trudeau. Then you have Mark Carney getting obliterated by reporters, Pierre Poilievre obliterating Mark Carney, and an old Liberal MP or premier coming out of the closet on mainstream media to Rosemary Barton, which I can't believe she still has a platform, saying, I'm voting for Pierre, and here's exactly why. So it seems to be that it's crumbling for the Liberals, and it is looking so freaking good and juicy for the Conservatives. Holy smokes, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage you all to hit the like button. It's all I care about, guys. Just smash the like button. Let's see if we can get thousands and thousands of likes. Subscribe to the channel, please. We're on route to 500,000 subs. It'd be sweet if we got there sooner than later. And if you want a matching sticker like the one here on my microphone or any of the others that are literally going to be going off the shelves after the election, then click the link down below. Burnt toast, is that what I smell? Down below in the description or the pinned comment below. Get yourself 20% off by using code SAFECANADA. And without further ado, let's get into this news cycle, because man, oh man, the news just doesn't stop. It just doesn't stop, I tell you. We're going to start off with the Pope, which I thought this was fake news, but apparently it's real.
I just signed an executive order putting the flags of our country, all of them, all federal flags and state flags, at half-mast in honor of Pope Francis. So he was a good man, worked hard, he loved the world, and it's an honor to do that.
Kind of weird having the Easter Bunny right next to him, but yeah, what a day to go out, I guess. So may he rest in peace. And now let's get into some politics here. Starting off with Elizabeth May. The Conservatives are now projected to unseat the Green Party leader, Elizabeth May, in her own party. And you can see the comments. Bless. People are so happy. Liquor stores, be warned. Drunken Lizzie Dizzy. Holy smokes. I mean, there she is driving off in her convertible, right? It's one heck of a time to be in Canadian politics. Pierre Poilievre's riding of Carleton. Here you go. This is what the ballot looks like at Pierre's riding. And it's too big to put through any digital thing. So people are going to have to hand count this, and Pierre Poilievre's name is somewhere right where my mouse is because it's in alphabetical order, which is so crazy. So in CBC gave this kid, 19 years old, a platform for an interview. You should go back a few videos and check it out. It's very aggravating. This shithead 19-year-old kid is doing this protest. He was planning on doing it in Nepean, which is Carney's riding, but nope, there was not enough time to get it done. So instead had a bajillion people sign up in Pierre Poilievre's riding legally, which that loophole is definitely going to be closed by the next election. And it's probably going to confuse a lot of people, but let's just move on and take a look at Mark Carney getting absolutely obliterated here and admitting that he's taking orders from the World Economic Forum.
Serving as counselors, it's okay. We'll get to the World Economic Forum in a moment, guys. I'm just getting sorry, just waiting, listening for the orders coming. Oh no, some things never change. You got to move on. We got to move on as a nation.
Okay. You remember in Harry Potter, like not in Hogwarts, but we're in civilian land, right? With all the muggles. Harry Potter's Aunt Petunia, or whatever her name is, the fat white woman who ended up blowing up like a balloon and flying away and stuff. That's who this chick reminds me of here. Just Somebody that you can just look at and absolutely hate. I've never even met her, but just her laugh at the World Economic Forum statement. It's a real thing. It's an evil organization that is manipulating politics all around the world. Why? It doesn't make any sense at all. But speaking of not making any sense, let's take a look now at Mark Carney not making any sense, saying we need to spend hundreds of billions of dollars because of tariffs and Trump.
A question about your platform and the bottom line. So under Jean Chrétien and Paul Martin, the Liberal Party took a lot of pride in focusing on balancing the budget and when balance, keeping it there. I think a lot of people were kind of hoping that your leadership would mark a return to that focus for the party. That doesn't seem to be the case in the platform. There's no reference to ever balancing the budget. And you are suggesting you will walk away from the fiscal anchor that the government stated just as recently as December, which was to keep the deficit below 1% of GDP. So what do you say to Liberals and Canadians who are disappointed to see that direction?
Well, this is a fundamentally different approach. This is an entirely new government. It's a fundamentally different approach. Okay, first thing. It is an approach that does two things. First, it gets government spending under control. So if you go back to the previous government, this spending was growing at 9%. We're going to grow spending over the course of the next 2 years, or 4 years, sorry, at 2%. 9%, 2%. Huge shift in terms of control on spending, bearing down on spending, getting that operating spending balanced over the course of the next 3 years. The second element that's different, fundamentally different, that meets the moment, is that we are in a crisis. We are in a crisis, the worst crisis of our lifetimes, including the fiscal crisis that Mr. Chrétien and Mr. Martin faced, because we are in a fundamental reordering of our relationship with the United States and the global economy.
Yeah, and so then our relationship with the United States is over. It ceases to exist. Look, this guy's going to completely ruin us. He's going to be printing more money, just like Justin Trudeau. He's already announced that the budget is on track to be $250 billion, which is freaking insane. I mean, you thought Trudeau was bad with being in a $60 billion deficit. Carney's planning right out the gate as the interim prime minister of putting us in like $150 billion deficit. So yeah, vote wisely, please, please, oh, please vote wisely. Now let's take a look here at Pierre Poilievre and what he has to say about how Mark Carney's platform is quite literally a copy paste of Justin Trudeau. All they did was erase the name.
We've also learned from journalist Catherine Levesque in a comment she made that, in fact, Mark Carney's platform was written for Justin Trudeau. They simply went into the document, they did a search and replace, they highlighted the name Trudeau, they replaced it with Carney, and what do you know? You have a platform for a fourth Liberal term. How could you ever expect a different result when you have the same Liberal ministers, same Liberal advisors, same Liberal platform under Mark Carney that you had under Justin Trudeau? You will have the same costly, reckless results if you give Justin Trudeau and the Liberals a fourth term in the face of Mark Carney.
That's exactly right. I mean, I can't even entertain the idea of it becoming true because it's so depressing. It's so depressing, and all signs are leading. Never mind the polls, man. Never mind these polls, because I did a poll on my YouTube channel that got over 30,000 votes, and it said Pierre Poilievre, 90% of people want to vote for, or are voting, or have voted for Pierre Poilievre. So the polls are the polls. I can have a poll, they can have a poll, them can have a poll, he, she, whatever. Anybody can have a poll. Doesn't mean that it's right. But when you look at voter turnouts, people showing up to the rallies, or even people that are endorsing these candidates. You have this guy right here. The former BC Liberal Premier is quite literally endorsing Pierre Poilievre and explaining why he's endorsing him. This is huge. Let's take a look.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is speaking this hour in Surrey, BC. We'll bring that press conference to you in its entirety at the top of the hour. Jagmeet Singh, though, also campaigning in the battleground province this weekend. That's in part because BC has 44 seats up for grabs, the third most of any province. But with opinion polls suggesting support for the NDP slipping, it's now a race between the Liberals and Conservatives. And BC's former Liberal Premier is urging Canadians to vote for Canada. Gordon Campbell joins me now. Nice to see you again, Gordon Campbell. Glad you could make some time for us.
It's good to see you too, Rosemary Barton.
Yeah, so you wrote an op-ed, and that's obviously why I got you here, because I thought it was very interesting. You wrote in it that people should forget Trump and vote for Canada, vote for its future, and put aside the issue of Donald Trump, that we need to think about how to pursue Canadian dreams. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about Donald Trump through this election campaign. Why are you telling Canadians to think about this election differently?
Because I think when we're only talking about Donald Trump, we're talking about fear. It seems to me that Canada has all the tools we need to build the kind of future that we want. And we should remember how strong we are, that we can be independent. I think, unfortunately, over the last 10 years, we've been weakened. We're not as resilient as we were. We're more dependent on the United States now than we were when the federal Liberal Party was elected. Okay. And it's time for us to recognize this is an important decision for us. It's an important decision for the next generation of Canadians. And one of the things that I'm concerned about is it feels to me like the next generation has been left behind. They're forgotten. My grandkids have been forgotten. We're watching as deficits are building up their first paycheck. So I think it's important for us to remember Canada. We have all the resources we need, but we have to liberate them. We have to put them to use. We can't play the uncertainty game. People have to know that Canada's here to get things done, and we can do them. Canadians should remember how strong Canada is as a country. We don't have to be, moved around by Donald Trump's whims. We have to, commit to ourselves and where we can go as a country.
You're not lying out, folks. It's the video quality. He doesn't have that good of internet for this segment, I suppose.
You also bring up is pipelines, which obviously has been part of the election campaign, promises on all sides to develop them. You write that building pipelines is pragmatic, not to build them is wrong. Both Pierre Poilievre and Mark Carney have said they're ready to build more pipelines. But I understand people may have different views about who's going to actually get it done. But do you think that pipelines should be a central focus of the ballot box question, at least maybe for Western Canada? Or give me your views on why you think that's such an important issue.
I think it's a really good question because I think it's for all of Canada, not just for Western Canada. Right. It's like going into an international hockey game and saying, we're going to leave Connor McDavid and Mitch Marner and Nate McKinnon on the sidelines because we don't really need all of our tools. We need to use the best of what we've got. We have exceptional energy resources. The Liberals stopped the Northern Gateway pipeline. That was wrong. And it was done after a process. So the uncertainty that has been created, and Mr. Carney continues this uncertainty. He says one thing in British Columbia, another thing in Quebec. We're told there's a national emergency. Then we're told, well, maybe not so much when it comes to pipelines. We need to have those pipelines to build the economic future for this country. Right. We need them to build the kind of opportunities and the foundation for hope for young people, not just pipelines, all of our natural resources, our mineral resources, our energy resources, our agricultural resources.
Yeah. You of course, know, though, that the Liberal government was the government that bought a pipeline.
Yeah, I know they're the government that bought a pipeline, and I know they're also a government that stopped a pipeline
after
it had gone through all the process and was ready for approval.
Right.
So when we're told that, we're worried about our economy, I can tell you one of the things that undermines every economy is uncertainty.
Yeah, for sure.
You can't say one thing in one part of the country and another thing in another part of the country. You have to be clear. If this is a national emergency, we are going to build pipelines. They're going to reach the Asian markets. They're going to reach the European markets. It makes no sense for us to bring, outside energy into Canada when we are so rich in energy resources as we are. So I think that's a really important issue for all of us. Yeah. And I think it's important for all Canadians. Canadians can't even get, Ontario and Quebec can't get their energy right now without it going through the United States. Yeah. That makes no sense to me.
We have been talking through this election a little bit about Western alienation, Gordon Campbell, and I wonder if that's something you are also feeling in BC, that is a real issue, potentially, if the Liberals win in particular.
You know, I think it's an issue that we have to start talking as one country. I said that back in 2007. When are we going to decide we are one Canada? That's where we got our strength. When we did so well in the Olympics, we didn't say, well, this person's from Saskatchewan, so it doesn't count as much, or this person's from Newfoundland and Labrador. We took all of the talents we had in Canada, we brought them together in an international competition. That's what trade is about. Yeah. We have the tools we need, not just to be independent of the United States, but to reach out to other jurisdictions and to build on our strengths. I'm not saying that's easy. I'm saying it can be done. And, you know, honestly, Rosemary, if it's a national emergency, which is what we've been told now, time and time again, you know, Mr. Trump made his decision on February 1st. We still have interprovincial trade barriers. Mm-hmm. Take them down. Should have been done long, long ago. It would add $200 billion to Canada's economy. And more important than that, it starts thinking about the next generation of Canadians. We should not think of the next generation of Canadians as the people that will pay all of our debts for all of the services we made. You've got to deal with these issues straightforwardly. Yeah. And I think there's been so much you know, distraction that we haven't been able to remember how strong we are as a country when we work together.
You don't, in your op-ed, Mr. Campbell, endorse Pierre Poilievre. You don't mention him at all, actually. But I would imagine that is your choice, is it? Why did you not mention him in your op-ed, or are you still thinking about where your support should go?
No, I'm not thinking about where my support should go. I think we should hold governments to account. Yeah. The Liberal decade was a dismal decade for Canada. Their immigration policies hurt every one of our cities. They made our housing problem worse. They made our healthcare problem worse. Mm-hmm. They made our educational problems worse. We have to hold governments to account.
I've been thinking about this a lot, and you know, you see all these governments, all these politicians talking about intraprovincial trade barriers. Dude, they could have used COVID. That would have been the best example to pretty much knock down all of the intraprovincial trade barriers. There was a health crisis. We all knew this. And they could have used their powers for good, saying, you know what? There's nurses in Ontario that don't have access to working out in remote parts of British Columbia or Saskatchewan, and there's too many barriers to be able to do that. Let's break down those barriers so that you can have our healthcare professionals have a more transient style career. And they didn't do it. They had that perfect opportunity during their health crisis, and they didn't freaking do it. It's totally absurd to me, right? They could have used their powers for good. If they had done that, they would be doing incredible right now. The Liberals, and I can't believe I'm supporting them, right, with this idea. But that was a real, or if the Conservatives even brought that forward, that would have been a good idea. But I mean, there was a lot going on, and whatever. Interprovincial trade wasn't at the center of, you know, a discussion when it came to Canadian politics. But I really wish it was. And looking back, in hindsight, that would have been a really slick move.
One person does not a government make. You know, I wouldn't count on the federal government delivering and executing a program anytime as long as it's the same group that's been there the last 10 years. They've been incompetent, and they've led us down the wrong road. I'm not saying they weren't well-intended. Yeah. They just didn't do the job. They have to do the job, not just for me and my generation. We've been taken care of pretty well. But I'll tell you, my grandkids deserve to have a government that's thinking about them, not thinking about debt, not thinking about expediently taking care of this group or that group. How are we building the future for Canada? That's what I'm voting for, and I think that Mr. Poilievre has the platform that will get us there.
100%. My kids don't deserve to live in this crappy freaking country the way it's been run. The beautiful people here, beautiful land, and we were once a great nation that had a good head on its shoulders, economically speaking. And now, no, they deserve better than this. And I don't personally want to take off. I know a lot of people are entertaining it. I know a lot of people are saying, hey, we're going to move to Alberta. And that's something that I've been very public about on my X account, that if this doesn't go how we want it to, if Pierre doesn't get elected, a lot of people are going to be fleeing to Alberta, and a lot of people are going to be fleeing out of this country. I want to avoid all of that. And I want Pierre to win. I really want the Conservatives to win and get our country back on track. Let me know down in the comments what you think about that interview. Do you agree? Do you disagree with any of the points? Let me know down below. Now we're going to take a look at mainstream media and what they are reporting on.
The latest poll from Nanos.
Now we're going to take a look at mainstream media and see what they are reporting on with the polls and just everything that's kind of happening as of right now. Because I'll tell you, there's a mixture of everything. The polls are very much looking like Pierre Poilievre is skyrocketing in popularity. The rallies, the people that are out in the streets voting conservative, people that are putting out lawn signs. There's more volunteers than ever before. But for some reason, mainstream media is refusing to acknowledge this. So let's take a look and let's debunk some of it.
Well, the latest poll from Nanos Research for CTV News and the Globe and Mail shows the Liberals holding on to the lead in party support.
The Liberals are sitting at 43.7% support, while the Conservatives are down 2.5 points to 36.3. That gives the Liberals a lead of around 7 points. New Democrats up 2 to 10.7%.
So joining us live now for more on today's polling numbers is Nick Nanos with Nanos Research. Nick, here we are.
It doesn't make any sense, right? You have a clear winner in the debates. Pierre Poilievre held his own, did a phenomenal job. You have more support at Pierre Poilievre's rallies than ever before. You have ex-Liberal MPs, ex-Liberal premiers that are coming out of the shadows and saying, we support Pierre. For crying out loud, you could have Santa Claus and Jesus himself say, we support Pierre Poilievre, and Nanos polls, Eco's polls will be like, look, Mark Carney has an uptick in popularity. So, like, these people are just so delusional, right? It doesn't make any sense.
Easter Monday, a lot has happened from Friday over the long weekend to the numbers that we're seeing today, which ended yesterday. So the Liberals have now a 7-point lead. Do you think this is a result of the debate? Are we seeing any of this influence from the advanced polling? What's your take on the numbers we're seeing today?
Well, you know, what's interesting, Jennifer, is that the Liberal support has been basically the same over the last number of days. And what we're seeing is the little bit of negative pressure on the Conservatives and the NDP being a little up coming out of the debate. Maybe that, why don't we call it the scrappy sing in the French and the English debates kind of paid off a little. And, you know, the thing is the NDP have had a really tough election. And they're back at a level where they started. So maybe a bit like Bill Murray and Groundhog Day. Yeah. He's back to where he was, but, you know, still not a great score at 11% ballot support for Jagmeet Singh. Not very good.
But that's kind of what I wanted to pick up on with you, Nick, is if you look at, you know, your initial day of polling right through till today, really the numbers, they've gone up and down a little bit, but most of the top three main parties are kind of in the same zone they were in at the very beginning of this campaign, which makes you ask, is anything penetrating, or are people just like it's already baked in?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think at least considering where we were at the beginning of the campaign and where we were like 4 months ago, it's like a complete, topsy-turvy type of race. But I think since the election was called, it's like Mark Carney and the Liberals have been in the driver's seat. The Conservatives, you know, this goes back to what we talked about before. Even at 36%, you know, they won two minority governments at 36%, right? So, but it's still, this 36 is not enough because the NDP are down and the Bloc are down. You know, the Green Party's only, at around 3% nationally. So, you know, you think of all those other parties that are down compared to 2021, it just speaks to the difficult situation it is for the Conservatives. So it's not enough to get what they did before to win. They've got to do much better. And right now, at least, Mark Carney and the Liberals still have the advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, with a week to go before Election Day, Mark Carney still has a 10-point lead when it comes to who people polled want to see as preferred prime minister. I'm curious, Nick, if you think that, you know, the Conservatives can do something, you know, win more votes in BC, or they've now shifted their strategy to focusing on affordability and the record of the federal government. Is there anything they can do to kind of turn their fortunes at this point?
BC is going to be conservative at the federal level. They barely won provincially, the NDP. And the NDP are not the Liberals. Now, there are a lot of people from the NDP that are transplanting and voting for the Liberals because Jagmeet is a sinking ship. But exactly that, Jagmeet is a sinking ship. So if the NDP vote here in BC gets split to still people holding on to the federal NDP, but a lot of people jumping ship to Liberals, the conservative base in British Columbia is still as strong, if not stronger than ever, because we're so woke of all the we're so woke of all the sickness. We're so sick of all the wokeness going on in this province. So I think you're going to see federally, you're going to be shocked, but British Columbia is probably going to be very much conservative. And there's a direct incentive for all of the smaller Indigenous communities because Pierre has said he's going to open up oil and gas in British Columbia and all the LNG plants. And so he says some of the richest communities in the world are going to be these Indigenous communities that live close and work with these LNG plants, right? It's going to be incredible. There's going to be so many jobs being made. So if you're interested in making money and thriving and not worrying about the price of blueberries and how they doubled since 2019, then yeah, of course people are going to be voting conservative. And it's not just going to be happening in British Columbia. There's an incentive in every single province and territory to vote conservative. And so what really is going to matter is Ontario. But we're seeing these insane turnouts at these Poilievre rallies that are very much, showing the numbers that, hey, people are sick and tired of the Liberals. I think it's only like old women and their cuck husbands that are voting Liberal, and then brainwashed, overly progressive young people that are voting Liberal. I think that most of the country is definitely going to be voting in favor of Pierre Poilievre.
Yeah, I think the lowest hanging fruit for the Conservatives would be to focus on, and then let's face it, the Liberals are at around 44% nationally. Before Justin Trudeau stepped down, they're at 20. So there's a lot of people there that weren't going to vote Liberal just a number of months ago. I think for the Conservatives, probably their biggest opportunity would be to focus on male Liberal voters, because the thing is that the Conservatives do better among male voters than women voters, and what they need Liberals, some men who are voting Liberal to decide to convert or to decide to switch over to vote Conservative, right? So, I think if we're thinking about niche targeting, that's basically what it comes down to. And, if the Conservatives can get some men to decide that they're not going to support the Liberals and they're going to vote for the Conservatives, that would be a game changer. So, that's basically the best opportunity for them in the closing days of the campaign, because let's face it, Mark Carney got through the two debates, and he's probably just going to try to low bridge and cruise to not make a mistake, or try not to make a mistake in the closing days of the campaign.
Yeah, okay, we'll watch them. We'll watch your numbers carefully every single day. Nick Nanis from Nanis.
I think you're going to see a massive uptick in popularity this week because the debate is done. Pierre is back doing rallies, and I think you're going to see more support now than ever. And even on their fake freaking polls, their bias polls. Why are they fake? I got polls. Are my polls being taken seriously across the entire country on my community tab? 30,000 votes. That's a half decent survey. Better than Ecos and Nanos, which has 1,200 and they're hand-picked people. Mine is just free-flowing, transient people going across the internet, man. Anybody could find them polls, right? I mean, that's a great way to look at it. So I think you're going to see a natural uptick in popularity with the Conservatives this week. And I'm so excited because it is the final week of the election. And you can see so many people. Doesn't matter what stripe you are. There's so many people that are more excited than ever to get out and vote. I voted for the first time federally. I went through a couple of hooplas, right? I had to walk uphill both ways for a kilometer each way through a snowstorm, hail, rain, and a flash flood. And there was volcanic eruptions all over me, is probably what I'm going to tell my children when I'm older, because boomers like to tell us that. So I'm sticking to that story, but I had to walk a little bit, like a kilometer each way to go vote. I had to call Elections Canada to see where I could do a special ballot, because I'm not home in my home riding, right? And I still was super excited to go out and do that. So I encourage everybody, if you haven't yet done the early voting, I highly recommend you get out and you vote. And there's a whole thing going on about pens and pencils. Bring your own pen. Elections Canada on the website literally encourages people to bring their own pen. So it's not like a conspiracy thing. Oh, crazy right-wing conspiracy people are saying bring pens. Literally, Elections Canada on their website says it. Look it up. I'm not going to show it. We're going to end the video here. But if you have any questions, comments, or concerns about any of the topics that were brought up in this video, put them down below and let's get the community chats nice and free flowing. And if you haven't yet already, I'd like to encourage you guys, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to seeing you all in another video. Bye for now.